We are tackling something, well, honestly, pretty extraordinary.
Ezouidi.
Ezouid, yeah. For the longest time, this was, barely a footnote. A rumor, almost a legend, whispered among certain scholars.
Right. Dismissed by many.
Totally. But recent work, some real breakthroughs, have dragged it out of myth and, well, into reality. A very solid, frankly, mind blowing reality.
It's certainly shifted perspectives.
So, our mission today is basically to unpack what we know about Ezouid. We've got a stack of sources here, papers, reports. We want to piece together the story from its discovery to what it tells us about, well, ancient ingenuity.
And it really does challenge some long held assumptions.
Doesn't it? We'll look at its unique features, the tech they apparently had, and of course, the questions that still remain. So, yeah, get ready for a deep dive that might just surprise you.
I think it's fair to say Ezouidi isn't just another dig site. The sources really frame it as more of a recalibration.
Recalibration, I like that. How so?
Well, it suggests capabilities, especially in dealing with the environment and managing resources, that we just didn't think were possible for that time period.
Right. Things we assumed came much, much later.
Exactly. It's a potent reminder of how much we still don't know, how much history might still be, quite literally, buried.
Okay, so let's start at the beginning then. The discovery itself sounds like something out of a novel.
Hmm.
How did this place, Ezouid, finally, come to light?
Well, interestingly, the first real hint didn't come from someone digging in the dirt in the traditional way. Not at all.
Yeah.
No. The sources point to higher resolution satellite imagery. Researchers, I think from the University of Lyra, were actually looking at something else entirely paleoclimates, old riverbeds, that sort of thing.
Standard remote sensing stuff.
Right. But they were looking at a very remote, arid area and noticed these anomalies, faint patterns under the surface related to soil moisture.
Anomalies? Like what?
Well, they weren't random. They looked geometric, almost artificial, not like natural geology. It suggested something buried, something large and man made, but incredibly subtle. You needed advanced spectral imaging to even pick it up.
So basically invisible if you were just walking around on the ground level.
Completely invisible from the surface, which, explains why it stayed hidden for so long.
Wow. Okay, so satellites spot something weird. What happens next? Do they just start digging?
Not immediately. This is where it gets really interesting. They started looking into local folklore from indigenous communities in that region.
Oh, the oral traditions.
Exactly. And for generations, there had been these stories passed down about a lost city under the dunes.
No way.
Yeah, tales of a place with singing stones and, get this, flowing water where none should be.
That's incredibly specific. Were those stories just ignored before?
Largely, yes. Dismissed as myth, legend, you know the drill. But then the satellite data, the geographical coordinate implied by the imagery, they lined up remarkably well with the locations mentioned in these old stories.
Okay, that's uncanny. So the myth suddenly became a map.
Precisely. That's when it got serious. They brought in ground penetrating radar, GPR,
to see what was really down there.
And the GPR confirmed it. Not just a few structures, but vast interconnected complexes deep beneath the desert. The legend was real.
Incredible. Just piecing that together. Satellite data, ancient folklore, then the radar confirmation. So they finally break ground. What did those first digs uncover? What was the immediate wow factor that told them this wasn't just another ruin?
Well, the first wow was the preservation. Because it was underground, sealed off, it was largely protected from erosion from the elements.
Like a time capsule.
Exactly. They weren't just finding foundations, they found intact rooms, multi tiered levels, and the scale of it. The initial estimates were huge, over 5 square kilometers potentially, all subterranean.
5 square kilometers underground. That's staggering.
Carved out of this enormous sandstone bedrock formation. But it's not crude carving. The precision is remarkable.
Okay.
And they use this technique, the papers call it inverted terracing. Imagine stepping the ceiling up, especially given the location, arid then, arid now. They developed